Hello, everybody. Welcome to the morning show. We're coming to you today on WJOPLP Newburyport at FM 96.3 on Channel 9 and on Newburyport Community Media's YouTube station at ncmhub.org. I'm your host, Mary Jacobsen, and I am delighted today to welcome Lisa Lunghofer here. She is the executive director of the Grey Muzzle Organization, which advocates for the well-being of senior dogs. Lisa is also the executive director of an organization called Making Good Work, and she has 20 years of experience working with public sector and nonprofit clients, helping them to create strategic plans, develop logic models, write winning grant proposals, develop evaluation plans, and track outcomes, all of which skills I'm sure she brings to bear for the Grey Muzzle Organization. So Lisa, first of all, welcome to the morning show, and thank you so much for taking time to visit us and talk about senior dogs.
Well, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Lisa. Well, I would like to start with, would you please tell us the origin story of Grey Muzzle, when, how, and why the organization came to be, and how you got interested in working with it?
Sure. So Grey Muzzle was started in 2008 by Julie Dudley. And just prior to that, she was working as a volunteer at Old Dog Haven, a rescue in Washington State, and that focused on older dogs. And one day, a gentleman called and said that he had an old dog who had been living outside, and he insisted that they take her in. And if they didn't, he was going to shoot her.
Oh, my goodness.
And yes, it was a tragic situation. And so Old Dog Haven did take her in. Julie actually took her to the veterinarian, and she had been, living outside. She was really in rough shape. But she kind of bounced back and showed at the vet that, even though she was in rough shape and that she needed a lot of care, that she still had love to give and life left in her. So Julie helped her get the care that she needed and adopted her.
Oh.
And through that experience, Julie did some research and recognized that there really wasn't any national organization that was focused on helping older dogs. And so as a result, she founded Grey Muzzle in 2008, and we've been going strong for the last 15 years.
Well, that's a wonderful story, and I'm glad it had a good outcome. There clearly was life left in that dog to be lived, and she made it possible, and then found the gap and filled it with Grey Muzzle, which is a great story. I'm so glad that happened. And how about you? How did you get interested in the organization, Lisa?
Well, I had a sort of circuitous route. My background is actually in research and evaluation on children's exposure to violence.
Oh.
So I spent the first 15 or so years of my career doing federally contracted evaluation of programs to help children and families that had been exposed to violence, exposed to child abuse, domestic violence. And then it so happened, I guess, probably around the time that Grey Muzzle was founded, around 2008, 2009, I was watching the news. I live here outside of Washington, D.C., and a gentleman, he was in the armed services, and he was planning to board a plane at Dulles Airport to go overseas for a tour of duty with his dog, Jetta. And Jetta sadly bolted out of her crate at the airport. And he and his wife had spent several days just searching Northern Virginia for Jetta. And he was pleading for people to show up to come and help him search for his lost dog. And this was the middle of summer in DC, which you can imagine is very unpleasant. But I thought, oh my gosh, I have 3 dogs, and what if one of my dogs were lost? So I showed up the next day to help him search for Jetta. And sadly, we never found her. But as a result, I got acquainted with a whole world of animal-focused things, activities, and programs that I didn't know existed. So as a result, I decided that I wanted to use my skills to help animal-related organizations. And so I did a lot of Googling, And I found interesting programs around the country, and I emailed their executive directors and said, I have some skills doing grant writing and developing programs. Can I help you? And I'll help you for free. So for the
Oh,
next
well.
year, I did a lot of pro bono work, developing programs and evaluating them. And through that, I actually got connected with Grey Muzzle. And so I started as their first part-time staff person in 2015, which is amazing to say. It's been 8 years now that I've been involved, and it's just been an incredibly gratifying experience to work on behalf of homeless and at-risk senior dogs.
Oh, I'm sure it is. And that's a great story. Sometimes serendipitous events just prod us along and lead us to a path where we'll find something that's a good fit, as it sounds like Grey Muzzle has been a good fit for you, and you've been a great fit for them. So thank you for sharing those stories. Well, Lisa, could you talk a little bit about some of the distinctive vulnerabilities in the lives of senior dogs that people may just not be aware of? And that Grey Muzzle helps to take address.
Sure. Well, as all of us age, we tend to develop some health issues and concerns that it's important to be proactive in addressing. So, senior dogs are no different. And one of the things that we see actually quite commonly in senior dogs is that they have not had dental care throughout their lives. They haven't had regular care of their teeth, and that can cause real important systemic problems and impact their overall health. And the other part of that is that dental care is expensive, and
Yeah.
so we do throughout the year raise funds specifically for dental care to
Yeah.
ensure that senior dogs get the care that they need, and to provide grants specifically for dental care to animal shelters and rescues, so that when they do get a senior dog in that has dental issues, they can provide the care that they need to address them and get them back to good health.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's an issue in humans and in dogs. If you don't get proper dental care, it can lead to infections and all kinds of other diseases. So that's a wonderful kind of service that you provide. And I believe because you have a wonderful website that I looked at, and some of the stories that struck me, Lisa, were stories about people who age out of being able to take care of their dog, or people who may predecease their dog. And then, in fact, could you talk about the challenges of older dogs in shelters? Because a lot of them, under those circumstances, will wind up in shelters. And could you tell us about some of the vulnerabilities of those dogs that, for different reasons, older dogs wind up in animal shelters?
Yeah, it is sadly true that senior dogs do end up in shelters as a result of their people either passing away or having to go into an assisted living or a facility or a nursing home. And, sadly, they haven't made provisions for their dogs. And so, there may not be a family member who can step up and take that dog into their home. And so they do sadly sometimes end up in shelters or rescues. So that's why we really encourage people to think ahead, to plan ahead, to have a plan for your dog, no matter how old they are or
Yeah.
how old you are, because
Yeah.
you never know, things happen. And
Yep.
people, I mean, even if people going into the hospital for temporary stays, if you live alone and you have to go into the hospital. So
Yeah.
we do have some grantees that provide that sort of respite service, so that if somebody is temporarily unable to care for their dog, that they have somebody to step in and
Yeah.
provide that support. But other reasons that senior dogs come into shelters and rescues are similar to the reasons that younger dogs come into shelters and
Hmm.
rescues. People's life circumstances change. The housing crisis that we're facing right now
Yeah.
is certainly causing people to have to reconsider their living situation. And sometimes housing doesn't allow dogs, or doesn't allow multiple dogs, or doesn't allow certain types of dogs, or
Yeah.
doesn't allow
Yeah.
dogs of a certain size, or requires a hefty deposit. So those are, again, some of the reasons that sadly senior dogs are given up.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, and life is unpredictable for humans and and the dogs that live with them, for all of us. And so you've just described a lot of the situations that can lead to dogs winding up in shelters. But I understand it's harder for older dogs to be adopted from shelters, I believe, Lisa, isn't it? I think on your website there are some statistics. I think it's far fewer senior dogs get adopted from shelters because many people are reluctant to adopt a senior dog, knowing, their lifespan is going to be shorter than a puppy's. So,
Right. Yes, that is true. Senior dogs definitely face barriers to getting adoption and tend to either, not get adopted or wait longer to get adopted.
yeah.
Which is why our grants are so important, because one of the barriers to adoption is concern about health issues and the cost of
Hmm.
those health
Yeah.
issues, so that if we can provide funding to provide medical care, to provide dental care, to provide just diagnostics to reassure a potential adopter that a dog is, that their blood work looks good, they don't, have any particular issues, that can really remove that barrier or that hesitation as someone's considering adopting an older dog.
Yeah.
So we believe that's really important. And we also really believe it's important to help senior dogs stay in homes where they're loved and are with their people.
Yeah.
So we have really tried to prioritize our grants to preventing the surrender of senior dogs. So if someone's coming in and they have a senior dog and they don't have the wherewithal to provide the dental care or the veterinary care, we are our grantees are able to cover the costs of that care so that they can stay in their homes with the people who love them, which is best for them. It's best for their people. It's best for the
Yeah.
shelter that, isn't taking in that dog, and the dog is then going through the trauma of
Yeah.
being in the shelter and not knowing what's going on and then having to be adopted. So we just really, that's really a big priority for us to keep dogs in their homes with their people.
Absolutely. Such a life-changing benefit for everyone involved, the humans and the dogs that live with them, because they're going to all benefit. It's a win-win for everybody. So it's so wonderful that your organization can provide grants to give those life-changing services, life-enhancing services to people. Well, Lisa, I hope you could tell us a little bit more about Grey Muzzle. Could you tell us a little bit about Grey Muzzle's vision and its values?
Sure. So, our vision is a world where every senior dog thrives and no old dog dies alone and afraid, which, how many years in still makes me choke up when I say that.
Me too.
Yeah, but it really is our vision, and that is what we are striving for in the world, and raising money and to provide grants to really ensure that's the world that we live in.
Yeah.
So
And that's a better world.
absolutely, absolutely. And in terms of our value, we value senior dogs. We value we believe that they have much to offer, and that we really encourage people to open their hearts and homes to them, and to experience the joy that they can bring to a home and to a family.
Well, in fact, Lisa, let's talk a little bit about the benefits and the great pleasures of sharing life with a senior dog. Could you talk a little bit about how you see the benefits and the pleasures that senior dogs just distinctively have to offer?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think one of the benefits of adopting a senior dog is that you know what you're getting in terms of their personality, their temperament. When you have a puppy, you don't know what they're going to grow into, what their disposition is going to be. So with a senior dog, you're seeing what you're getting. So I think
Yeah.
that makes it easier for you to choose a dog that fits your lifestyle and your circumstances, which is so important when you're adopting any dog. It's
Oh, yeah.
important that fit, just like your spouse, your partner, you have to have a good fit with that two-legged or four-legged being. So I think that is definitely one of the benefits. And most senior dogs have lived their lives in a home with a
Yeah,
person. So many of them are, have training and kind of know the ropes in terms of living in a home. And
yeah,
so I think that's
yeah,
a great benefit. And I just think that, having been displaced from a home, having been in a shelter or a rescue, I think they have sort of that sense of gratitude and just being able to take a breath and to be at peace and to just kind of bask in the love of a new home and a safe
yeah,
place.
yeah. Yeah, there's also just, I find personally that there's just something incredibly sweet about senior dogs. Those gray muzzles, just, I would say, I'd put it this way, they open your heart. And it feels as though there's a kind of a pureness of spirit, a kind of a grace about them that's just beautiful to behold. And it's really a life enhancement. We've had a series of chocolate labs, and the last one lived to be 15. And we were grateful to have that much time with her. And, with an older dog, one of the things that happens is as they age, as we all do, you cherish every moment with them. And I think that is a really good attitude for human beings to develop, to live in the present and to cherish the things you have to appreciate about your life. And as a result of our experience taking care of a 15-year-old dog, we adopted a 9-year-old dog. Um, there's so many dogs from the South that come to New England anyway. I don't know if the same is true in the DC area, but there's a kind of a steady progression of shelter dogs brought to New England to find homes. And so we adopted a 9-year-old chocolate lab mix from Mississippi. And at 9, I thought she'd be a couch potato. She's the farthest thing in the world from a couch potato. She has plenty of life left in her. But, Lisa, I feel like I learned things from her about grace, about adaptability, about loving with an open heart every day. So those are some of the distinctive benefits. She's 12 now, and she's still going strong. She's not a couch potato yet, and not that I want her to be. But there is a special kind of, I would call it a beauty and a grace, I think, that many older dogs have, and that their gray muzzle expresses. So I love the name that you gave your organization. Well, related to that, one of the things that I wanted you to talk a little bit about, because it's mentioned on your website as one of the things that you offer grants to, and that is hospice care for dogs, because I think many people are not aware that there is such a thing as hospice care for dogs. So could you talk a little about what that is, who does it, what kinds of dogs wind up being the beneficiaries of hospice care?
Sure, sure. Yes, we provide grants that support hospice programs at shelters and rescues, and it's really similar to hospice for people. It's for senior dogs that have a life-limiting condition. So, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are on death's doorstep. It just means that they have some sort of disease that will likely progress and will eventually take their lives.
Mhm.
And so hospice is a way, many times the hospice programs are supported, the hospice adopter or foster, the shelter or rescue provides really great ongoing support, helping with, managing perhaps pain or medications that, the dog may need to keep them comfortable. So yeah, it's a really important type of program. And actually what we found is that some dogs that have been diagnosed with a life-limiting condition and go into hospice, they enter, when they enter, their foster family or hospice family thinks, oh, the end is pretty near, and then they relax and they are in a safe place and they end up living for another year or two or maybe even longer. So we've had a lot of great stories like that. But at the hospice, fosters and caregivers, really to a person, I'll talk about how rewarding it is to care for a senior dog who is facing the end of their lives, and how gratifying it is to be able
Yeah.
to help them cross the bridge.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all to hear that. As emotionally challenging as it could be, sure, it's also emotionally extremely rewarding because I think, Lisa, senior dogs call forth kindness from our hearts. And I think kindness is a heart expanding experience, and it's also hugely gratifying. So thank you for that explanation of what hospice care is, and how great to find out that sometimes being taken care of in that way enables the dog to kind of relax into living the rest of their lives, even having a longer life than was expected. So that's a great outcome. Um, and Lisa, I know that your reach is national. You provide these grants to organizations really all over the country. And I was hoping that you might also share, um, maybe a success story, one perhaps that's been particularly impressed you or moved you, from the work that you've done and things you find out from the organizations or people that you've given grants to.
Sure, sure. There are so many stories. It's really hard to choose one, but one of the ones that I often come back to is a grant that we gave to the Massachusetts SPCA, and it
Mm,
was focused on their community clinics.
mm,
And again, that's, one of like as I mentioned, we really do want to help people care for their senior dogs and get them the kind of treatment that they need. And so the MSPCA helped a gentleman named Noel and his little Chihuahua mix, Maruka. And Maruka was on heart medication, and Noel was trying to give her heart medicine, and Maruka started just yowling in pain, and
oh,
Maruka was, horrified. He didn't know what to do, so he called the MSPCA community outreach person and said, I think she needs dental care. I think I think her
oh,
mouth is really hurting her. What can we do? And they didn't have an appointment for 6 months at
oh
the
my.
Boston, yeah, at the Boston location. So they helped him arrange for a clinic visit on Cape Cod, and he didn't have transportation, so he took the day off of work, and he spent 4 hours taking 2 trains and a
Mm,
bus to get little Maruka to her dental appointment on Cape Cod. And
oh,
she had, gosh, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 teeth removed, and they got her cleaned up, and Noelle was able to take her back home, and now she's healthy and happy, and she's eating like a champ and taking her heart medicine. And Noelle could not be more grateful that that the MSPCA and Grey Muzzle were there to help him
yeah.
when he really needed it, and get the care for his beloved dog, Maruka.
Well, that is a great story with a great ending because for people who love your dogs, it's so painful to see them in pain and suffering because they can't talk and tell you what the problem is. And often that means that it goes, because they can't tell you, I'm in pain, this hurts. It often goes further and it gets worse before it can get better. But you all made it better, which is a great thing. So well done, Grey Muzzle, and well done, MSPCA. So good outcome for Maruka. Well, how can people learn more about Grey Muzzle and how can people support your mission, Lisa?
Sure, you can learn more at our website. That's greymuzzle.org, GREYMUZZLE.org. And we, as I mentioned, we give out grants annually. This past year in July, we awarded $848,000 in grants to 90
Wow.
shelters and rescues across the country,
Wow.
for a total of $4.6 million since our founding. And we don't have an endowment, we don't get any kind of government funding. So the amount that we raise every year from individual supporters, giving $10 or
Yeah.
$20, $100 or $10,000, that's what determines how much we can give out in grants. So we are just so thankful for the support of people who have a heart for senior dogs. And
Mhm.
if you'd like to make a year-end donation, you can go to our website. We're also always looking for volunteers to help us with outreach in communities. You know, we don't deal directly with the senior dogs, so
Yeah.
people who are interested in that sort of volunteer opportunity are best probably suited to go to some of our grantees and help out there.
Mhm.
Um, but we welcome the support of people all over the country, and we're just so thankful to be able to pursue our mission and help senior dogs.
Well, it's such a wonderful mission and such an important one. And as I mentioned, it is a really good website. There's lots of information there about senior dogs, and there's resources, and there is also a donate button. So, um, well, you also have as a year-end fundraiser a beautiful calendar that I'm going to hold up now so people can see with pictures of these beautiful, wonderful senior dogs. And I wanted to highlight a couple in particular because one of them is relatively local. If you can see, Fiona is from New Hampshire, and people viewing the morning show may know Jean Adams, who is Fiona's packmate, who works at the Parker River National Wildlife Refuge. And there's one other dog, another calendar model I wanted to share because I think this dog just is such a good example of what the gray muzzle is, and the grace and the just kind of heart-opening quality that senior dogs have. And you can also, if you're interested in purchasing a calendar, you can also find that option on the Grey Muzzle website. So, Lisa, thank you so much. It's been really wonderful to talk to you. One final question. Is there anything I haven't asked you about today that you'd like people to know about gray muzzle in particular or about senior dogs in general?
Oh, I would just reiterate how wonderful it is to have a senior dog in your life. I have a 14-year-old dog named Cameron, and I could not be more thankful that she is part of our family. So, I think that by opening your heart and home to a senior dog, you're not only helping that dog, but you're also really blessing yourself with so much love and gratitude. And so I just would really encourage you to think about adding a senior furry family member in the coming year.
Furry family members are the best.
There you go.
Lisa, thank you so much for taking time to visit the morning show and talking to us about gray muzzle and the gratification of helping out senior dogs. I really appreciate your time and I really so much appreciate it. I thank you for the work that you and Gray Muzzle do on behalf of senior dogs and the people that they share their lives with. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's it for today, everybody. Please join us again next Thursday at 9 for the morning show. Until then, be well and find a senior dog and be nice to it. All right, take care, everybody.